Hi, I'm Dr. Kimberly Moore, host of the Envision More Workforce Insight podcast. Join us as we explore workforce and leadership through an innovation lens with leaders from across the country in every industry. Whether you're in education trying to crack the code for workforce or industry seeking to address your workforce talent strategy, or maybe you just need to be inspired, we've got you covered. Tune in, save us as a favorite, and let's innovate together. Welcome to another episode of Workforce Insights Podcast. Thank you again for joining and listening, being a part of this amazing effort where we're bringing executives from across the country, not only in education, we're thinking private government, we're thinking even with nonprofits, that we're bringing all these sectors together and we're bringing leaders with expertise that you need to know. And our guest today is very much in line with intersecting with all of these sectors. She is amazing in her own right. And I know that it's going to be exciting as we get to unpack this conversation. So it is none other than Dr. Wendy Talley. Dr. Talley, thank you so much for saying yes, for being here, for bringing your sunshine. For those of you who can't see her, then you probably gonna have to jump on YouTube and watch that video because she is sunshine at its best. Huge smile. Dr. Talley, you are amazing, but you work with everyone from corporate leaders to homeless veteran families and even supported initiatives with former First Lady Michelle Obama. What's one moment in your career that made you say, this is why I do what I do?
Oh, wow. There's so many moments, but one of the biggest moments in that particular space was when I was working for the Department of Veterans Affairs. We were housing homeless veterans, and we were tasked to house 3,000 veterans in 3 years. We definitely reached that goal. So I have to definitely say that having First Lady Michelle Obama as just an amazing leader, but when you got to report to her and give her data, she expected her stuff on time. Okay. She don't play. So, reporting on what California is doing at that time, I'll never forget, we housed a family of 8. And so there was mom and dad, and then there were 6 children. Okay. And mom was the veteran, right? And so, this family was literally living in their van, and they had been trying to get on their feet, were still putting their kids through school. And just looking at them, you would never see that they are homeless. Some of the images, the poor images, right? They kept themselves together. Children were academically smart. All of them were scholarly students, 4.0s. She made sure her family was amazing. Father was looking for work and things like that. And we were able to house them in a 4-bedroom home with a HUD voucher. And, for them to go from their van to a house, not an apartment or anything like that, but a whole house with a backyard and a front yard that their kids can play. I mean, wow. So I will never forget that.
It doesn't get any better because the whole thought, and I know you'll unpack it throughout the conversation, but really putting emphasis on serving those who've served us all. Wow.
So I just really enjoyed that. And that just kind of catapulted me into just helping so many different types of people.
Oh my goodness. And again, our listeners are going to benefit from your experiences. And I think part of how we'll get to know you today, we'll probably just do a rapid round, like first thing that comes to mind, and then we'll kind of unpack it further and move into some deeper questions. But what's your go-to strategy for resetting after a stressful day?
Oh, definitely just sitting back with my feet up and eating my favorite cheesecake and watching some of my favorite shows. And so Netflix right now is killing it with all of the different shows, and Tyler Perry's my best. So that's how I do that.
So name one book or resource every leader should read about mental health.
Oh, wow. I would definitely say top notch, The 4 Agreements. The 4 Agreements is definitely an amazing book to read, and it's made for the layman, and it's also made for the professional. I use it quite a bit in my work with a lot of clients to really help them understand how they got to where they are right now.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we'll definitely have to add that to our list of reads. So if you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring leader, what would that be?
One piece of advice I would definitely say is this: never stop growing. Always be an adult learner and learn to be a follower before you become a leader.
Oh, I love that. I know, I always talk about drop the mic moments with these podcasts, but I know that's a golden nugget. And I certainly believe that there'll be more. What's one myth about mental health in the workplace that you'd like to just get rid of it? It's like not true.
Oh, that if you're struggling with some sort of mental illness or that some symptoms of you have not fully been diagnosed, that you're not able to do a job, you're not able to work, you're not productive, you're not valuable. And that is definitely not true. Learn your accommodations at the workplace, talk with your HR, look at your benefits, and help them help you put together a plan to be productive.
I love it. I love it because you know what? We all have what I call areas of opportunity and don't look at it as a crutch. So finish this sentence. The future of corporate wellness is.
The future of corporate wellness is thriving. It's definitely thriving, it's growing, and it is definitely something that's going to reshape how we see work.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Which now, as we move into the deeper conversation, thank you for allowing us to unpack and get what's front and center on your mind. But you're a recognized leader in corporate wellness. You're working with Fortune 500 companies, government entities, and entertainment organizations. How do you approach creating impactful wellness programs it's a diverse industries that you're working with. How do you go about doing that?
Understanding that all of these industries have human beings in them. Regardless of the type of work that you're doing, we're all human beings and we need something. So, what is that? What is the crutch? What is the core of the thing that it is that you need within your organization? Really understanding the culture, because the culture of entertainment, the culture of government agencies are very different, but a lot are the same. What I like to find out when I help organizations put their corporate culture together, their wellness programs together, is tell me, what are your pain points? What is it that you're hearing? Or what are you seeing behind the scenes that employees are really struggling with, that is just not about getting a raise or getting a promotion? What else are they saying? Do you even know your own employees and who work there? Are there mothers? Are there fathers? Are they caregivers? Know that, and then you can be able to create the wellness program that will be able to identify all your different people that work for you, but also address their individual needs. So in line, you'll turn around and improve your bottom line. And that's the most important part. When you understand your employees as human beings and what they bring to the table and the uniqueness, they will give back more, which will in turn help your organization grow and look like a place where people want to work.
Oh, you know what? I love that. You said so much in there because when I'm thinking about bottom line, but create a win-win where it's also it's the power of us, the people that are there, and when you recognize what everybody brings. So, oh yeah, this is going to be an amazing conversation. What trends are you seeing in mental health challenges among professionals today? And I guess the second part of that would be, how are these challenges different across sectors like the ones that you've supported and represented by way of them being your clients?
So that's a lot. You're going to break that down for me again. So basically, what I'm finding is the current trends right now, especially with what's happening in our current presidential administration, and people are actually on the verge or have been removed from their positions and things like that. And then that impacts trickling down into our states, our communities, our nonprofits, our for-profits. It's a trickle-down effect. So everyone is going to be impacted, right? So what I'm finding is that overall is that people are really struggling, trying to find their footing. See, this is not like the pandemic. In the pandemic, your job wasn't somewhat in jeopardy, pretty much. You were just had to pivot your lifestyle a little bit. Well, now are people pivoting their entire existence and then how they work with their families. And so what I'm finding is the trend is, first, we're going to panic mode. Then we go into how is it that we're actually going to survive this? And then what does everybody do? Everybody returns back to school and get another degree, another certificate to get right back into the field of what is the next thing. So that's kind of what I'm seeing people running to: panic, education, and then pivot again.
Yeah, they're just looking for how they can find a level of normalcy in the midst of all the crazy. So do you and you I'm glad that you pointed out that it's a trickling effect with it creating or even domino effect with what we're seeing. But talk to me about, have you seen prior to the transition with different sectors anything that's very unique to them when it comes to government, entertainment, or corporate America?
So entertainment right now is not so much impacted yet because we have to look at types of funding and things like that. But then also too, those different entertainment entities, who and what they support. So whatever it is that they're supporting, their hopes is to benefit off of either that support or to stand their ground and then not support some of those things. And then what are those impacts? So right now, entertainment is still moving. However, when we look at diversity, since that right now is the big attack when it comes to diversity, we are seeing more of an attack on movies that are highlighting people of African descent, Latin descent. We're seeing more of that attack to try to redevelop or redefine the narrative of what certain characters look like. Now, even though it's not that new, that's not new news, but it is something that has much more of a light in that space. But what I definitely see in though is that, especially for my organization that I work with, they're not backing down. They're like, these are some great actors. These are people that have the skill set, and we're going to move forward. And we know what makes great movies. So, not so much on that end. Corporate America and government, that's taken the biggest hit. And so, I think with them making that shift, they're trying to redefine their footing and really figure out, but people are right now leading in fear. And that's what's causing a lot of panic.
So, I guess a follow up to that, when you think about these organizations where they're experiencing transition, is it oftentimes where you're coming in when it's trying to shape the culture and wellness, or in larger situations as we look at kind of what we're experiencing and the world is moving through right now? What is usually the driver that says, let's go after Dr. Talley to bring in her expert services? And has that changed?
Absolutely. And no, it has not changed. When they are, most people, like even with couples counseling, right? People wait until something bad has happened and they wait so long. Everything is such an awry. Everything is all over the place and chaotic. And so we're in a reaction part right now rather than being a preventative, and we could have headed this off in the past earlier. And so when people seek me out, they're saying, hey, this is the problem that we have. This is kind of the area we think that we're having some struggles with. And here are the employees or execs that we think we're struggling with. So what I do is I sit down with them and I say, okay, let's break all of this down into very small pieces. And so we put this on a board and say, okay, where are we having these problems? When did it actually start? And what do we think are the sources? So at that point, that's where I come in and say, okay, in the chaos, where are the silver linings? So a lot of people seek me out once the chaos has taken over. What I try to say is this. Think of it like defensive driving, right? You got your rear window, your rear mirror right here, right? That can see what you've passed, right? But also what's coming. You got your front shield, your window right in the front, right? Looking out. So you're seeing what's ahead and what's on the side of you. Well, guess what? Use your mirrors, use your windows to see around you of what are your potential problems so that you can defend your way through the process.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you created that visual for us as well. And listeners, want to make sure, I know that you're listening in and tuning in and writing down these great notes, but please do make sure that you share with your colleagues and friends as well. So when we're thinking about the shift, what role do leaders play and fostering a mentally healthy workplace? Because I think about a decade ago, we would not have been talking about well-being and this is the place for me. And if some talked about it, it might have been perceived as complaining, but now it's become commonplace. Maybe it's because of the generations, but how can leaders balance productivity with the well-being of their teams? What are some suggestions there?
Balancing with their team. So when you talk about balancing wellness, it's not about, being able to just have longer lunches. Self-care is kind of put into this box of just kind of pampering yourself. Not necessarily so. You want to do that, but there's so much more. So when we talk about wellness in the workplace and what a leader can do is really adhere to the open door policy, but be careful not being a counselor, right? You want to make sure that you're balancing that. Also setting those boundaries of when you are allowed in the workplace to be able to express yourself and find those safe spaces. I think leaders need to mimic what they know as a safe space and how they utilize these spaces to be able to address maybe some issues. Also, some great wellness things that they could do is now that we're coming back to the office, we're getting acclimated again, right? We're trying to figure all these things out. And so having a culture of where people can just come together and just talk about and give each other tips on they can make those adjustments. So creating a mentor and peer type of environment or group where they can be able to have those conversations, right? And so those are some of the things. And then also to bring wellness, healthy things into the workplace. Don't bring back the donuts. Don't hurt me. Don't send me the emails. But don't bring back the donuts, right? Start looking at healthier options of how can we improve our mindset while we're at the workplace, right? So doing those kinds of things and bringing in motivational speakers and things like that at various different points to address various different issues and train, train, train.
I love that. I know a couple of my clients, one of the things that we've talked about, and it actually came out of corporate training that we were doing, and it is about self-care space. That was actually a high priority of what the workforce was seeking. So it's great that you point that out, but even how leaders will need to be intentional about what that means when that safe space is created. So I love that you point that out. So you're a passion. You have an amazing passion for addressing intimate partner violence. So you're moving to another space among older couples is inspiring. I mean, you've done that. How can workplaces better support employees who are caregivers or part of the aging community? Because I think about more and more people retiring, more coming back into the workforce too. But how can workplaces better support employees who are caregivers or part of the aging community?
Oh my goodness. Now you're really speaking my language because that was part of my dissertation in school was looking at the aging community and for them to be able to successfully retire. Well, they're not able to successfully retire, right? Because of just the way the work is and just the economy and we're moving into possibly an inflation and things like of that nature. And so what companies can do for those folks go back again. People don't really read their health benefit packages. So I just want to plug in. It's not my personal own. Everybody has it. If you have health benefits through your company, it's called an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. And so many people just think that's just for counseling and I don't want that. Well, one, you may want to. Two, they have a whole host of resources for people that are caregivers, folks that may need additional resources in the community and things like that. So I would like employers to really utilize those benefits and bring in those resources into the workplace to people so that they can be able to see what is it that not only you as a company are supporting, but that you are listening to their needs. Also, too, do a survey. Do a survey to your employees and ask them, what is it that you want us to bring in? And then see what it is that you can do. Relational currency is so important. And if you don't see that your employees are your currency and not just the money that's going into the pocket of the company, but your people create that. They bring in the customers. They keep them going. They are your face. So when you invest in that, you will actually get a massive turnaround of just not only a revenue stream, but a long lasting of community that will continue to support your business.
Oh, so many positive things. I mean, I could bottle this up and spread it around the world, what you're saying now, because again, the bottom line is people and how we treat those individuals. I think it's common knowledge that there are outcomes that all organizations are seeking, but you have to realize that the vehicle to get there are the people. And what you're saying is make sure that it's a win-win and not just transactional. Oh, I love it. Love it. I love it. So when we think about workplaces and they strive for whether it's equity and inclusion, how does mental health intersect with these efforts? And what steps can organizations take to ensure that all employees feel supported?
So let's break that down. So the first part is,
When you're thinking about just equity and inclusion among different groups, how does mental health intersect with those efforts that an organization may have underway? And really, and even if we were to not even per se use those terms, it still is about how making individuals feel supported. So I guess in the boiling it all down, the question would be is how can organizations do a better job at making sure that everybody feels like they're supported?
well, actually, again, when you are interviewing your people and then you do a look around, a work around who's currently in my workplace and what services that they need. Well, there are just some basic things that organizations have that just make life easy. So you see that I'm like in an office setting, right? And so sometimes we get to typing. And so we need maybe some like a better chair to sit in, a different type of desk, right? Those are accommodations to ensure that none of your employees get injured, right? They can continue to be productive, right? So those are some accommodations. Those things are still important in the workplace, that it doesn't matter if, as far as diversity is concerned, these are just some basic needs that this particular employee who is qualified and vetted that they need. Because again, whatever it is that somebody may have, they're struggling with, or they may need some additional support, they can still do the job. They can still do the job. So give them what they need. So just have them be able to talk to their HR and say, hey, this is what it is that I need. Again, do a survey and talk about how can we make your environment better to work in, right? And then they can give you those needs back. They can give you those things back. Also, too, when it comes to folks that may need an additional accommodations, maybe because they have some sort of disability or a handicap or whatever, then yes, always again, are they capable of doing the job? Do they have the skill set? Once you say yes to that, give them the resources that they need, or give them the resources so they can get those things and then you can support them. Have the conversation so they can feel, one, they're heard, two, they feel like you care about them and you want them there. People want to feel wanted at the workplace. They want to feel wanted in any relationship, professional or personal, that they should be there, and they want to feel like everybody needs them there. So if you make the environment say, hey, I want you here, I value you, this is what I want you to do. What can I do to make this a little bit easier for you, or to give you the resources so you can be able to do your job? That's regardless of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I love that. And because it becomes less of a conversation about terminology versus more of a conversation about the people itself and just treating people fairly. When you mentioned surveys, gathering information, and I know that some employers heard it even with some of my clients, you're like, well, if you do the survey, then we're going to get the feedback, and then we get the feedback, then we're going to have to do something else, and perhaps ignorance is bliss. Again, you certainly understand, because sometimes, you're like, hey, if it's resource driven, then you're not going to be able to address it. But what guidance have you given leaders across these sectors about gathering information, like by way of a survey?
Well, make sure you read it.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Some of the basic things. Make sure if you're going to put out something that you're going to actually read and understand the data. Two, make sure you have a focus group. Oh my God, can you imagine if the employees knew they have a representative, a voice that's speaking in these rooms? Put a focus group together to look at from different departments. You have multiple departments or multiple positions, right? Because people are not all doing the same job. Create a focus group of people who can have a voice to look over this data and say, okay, what can we put together to give a voice back, so they can be able to speak for those within the workplace, but then also too, the leaders can also understand, and then they can, give that information back. So once you're reading the information, you put in the focus group together to order to implement these things, then start putting it together. Now you're creating SMART goals. How are we going to put these things together, and what are the timelines for each one? And so that people can see while they actually listen. And then things that you cannot do, don't ignore it. Don't just walk by it. Just say, because, give a reason. Because we weren't able to do A, B, and C, this is why we couldn't do what you had requested. People just want to know why, because you might give them the opportunity to give you the resource to actually solve that problem.
I love it.
Our employees can give our problem solvers. That's why you hire them. So have them work in those spaces.
So don't miss out on that opportunity. A great point to be had there. So whether, and you've mentioned EAP services, I'm hoping that the listeners across the globe will be paying attention to that and like, hey, you know what, we need to leverage that more. So when you're thinking about whether it's EAP services or even leadership consulting, how have you seen your work positively impact both the people and organizations that you serve?
Oh, wow. One, the impact on, because a lot of times what I tend to do is I get feedback and say, thank you, Dr. Talley, for the work that you have done. This has really, helped out. I like to do follow-ups just to see how everything is going and what has worked and what doesn't work. And what I have found, and I have to tap myself on the back for that, because a lot of people don't want to take credit, but sometimes we got to take credit for what it is that they do. But what you want to always remember is that you want to make sure that your employees give that feedback and say, hey, this has worked for me. My health has improved. My job has improved. I got a promotion. The problems at work is not a problem any longer. And so I think that's what's really important.
I love that. And I also think about the whole fact of when you think about giving individuals tools that they can use, whether it be on the leader side as well as the employee, the great impact that makes. So you mentioned earlier in our conversation about post pandemic. So a lot of emphasis was there that came as a result of post pandemic. What's the next big challenge or opportunity that you see in mental health for organizations that they need to be mindful of?
The impact of what's coming for a lot of people we're dealing with job loss, we're dealing with the increase of pricing and things like that. Folks are going to be stressed because of the outside things that are happening, and performance is going to be impacted. People may end up taking a lot of medical leaves because of the impact. People who have spouses or loved ones that live with them that could be impacted by job losses, the weight of those things are going to go on to that person. People are being required to return back to work into an office space. You're asking people to pivot. So you're going to get a lot of people that may experience anxiety at the workplace. They may begin to shut down and start to isolate. It may not just be, oh, Wendy is not picking up the phone. Wendy is not doing this. Well, have you checked on her? Before you start blaming her, have you checked on her? Is she still at the desk? Have you looked at her? What's really happening? And I will say this for all the leaders out there. I know you don't have the time to do all of that, but have somebody. Delegation is key. Have somebody do the check-in, right? Talk to the supervisors. Make sure that they're talking to them one-on-one and creating those systems in place. But start paying attention. You're going to start to see a lot of people take time off and start having, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, probably at work because of the major shift.
I love it. I love it. So having worked in behavioral health, you have for over 20 years, what changes have you seen, and how, when you think about behavioral health, just in general, what have those changes been, and how has it impacted like your service model and how you deliver services right now? Has that changed your service offerings, the things that you're offering now?
Absolutely not. But it actually has required me to constantly look at creating different types of programs that may include AI. So something that I may do in person, I may have to create something via AI model and be able to deliver that. So how can I be in more than one different places, right? And so utilizing technology so that I can be able to expand my reach has definitely allowed me to be able to do that. But as far as the services are concerned, definitely still the same, but at the same time, really looking at how the community changes and the culture changes. So check back with me in 90 days. It may shift because things are constantly changing, but it's something that definitely I can always pivot if I need to.
I love it. So you brought in the AI, you thinking about and doing the different modalities and just a desire and willingness to pivot and be nimble. So, I mean, all great points and all great for the different sectors that are listening in. So I can't believe we're actually drawing to our last question, but please know, as always, the virtual door will be open for you to come back. You've dedicated your life to helping others live out their destiny, their purpose. What does this mean to you, and how does your work continue to make an impact in the years ahead? I mean, are we cloning another version of you? I mean, how do we make sure that your impact continues?
Well, I think, what's coming. I'm the kind of person, I like to mentor people in their next, right? I like to be able to take the next generation. I would love to clone me. I wish I had me back then.
Yeah, right.
Right? I probably would have made some different decisions. But I love helping the next generation grow. And what's coming for me next is just pretty much what is it that you need. I'm looking at working more with executive leaders and things like that and how to really help them pivot for themselves personally. They have the weight on them, but they are really not taking the time out to really see what it is that they personally need in order to get things done. And so that is definitely something that I really want to do more, because the whole organization is my client, but I really want to talk to the leader and say, what's going on with you? And how can we help you be that excellent professional, but also that amazing person at home as well? So I love mentorship. I love to be able to pass the baton when need be. And when that next person is ready to take it on, I'm definitely there to help.
Last thing, what's the best advice you've ever received at any point in your career?
Oh, the best advice.
I can't wait.
My old chief, our Xenia Red Cross, African American woman, she was only one of two Black women that ran one of the biggest departments in the Veterans Administration nationally. And she was my mentor. She's a D9, she's an AKA, I'm a Sigma Gamma Rho, so we definitely vibed. But one thing she said to me was, there's two things that are wrong with you, Wendy. I said, two? My God, is that all? She said, there's two things that are wrong with you. You're good at what you do, and you're good at what you do. You're so good at what you do by default, you don't know how to be anything else. The second problem is that you're good at what you do is that people will take advantage of that and they'll suck you dry. And as long as you keep giving that and you don't put boundaries on that, you are going to burn out. So my big advice is this: learn your talents, but don't let your talents be utilized and abused in a way that it will just destroy you. Make sure you put those boundaries in place. You give it to the right people, not everybody. And that was my biggest advice. I still do that today, which is why I'm ending up what I do today with who I work with and in the room with you.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Drop the mic. Again, Dr. Talley, amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us today in the Workforce Insights podcast. Listeners, please make sure that you like, share, and most of all, subscribe. And until the next time, take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Workforce Insight podcast, powered by Envision More Consulting Group, where we bring your bold visions to life. Remember to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more insights on navigating the world of workforce and leadership. Until the next time, be bold, be great, and let's innovate.